Hello, friends. I'm making this video to talk about the most regretful and shameful thing that I've ever had to talk about publicly.
The people that apologize get eviscerated. And the people that say, "F you, I didn't do anything wrong," nothing happens. They live to fight another day. Their careers go on unchanged. Which just that to me, I mean, it's anecdotal, but it says to me, like, the more authentic the apology, I feel like the more you're damaging yourself, because what makes apologies authentic is remorse. And remorse is because you did something wrong. No, Joe Rogan, you did nothing wrong.
So first apology, 10 out of 10. Second apology,
2 out of 10.
4 out of 10. I don't know.
Oh, 4. Nice.
What are you giving? It's pretty bad.
2. Yeah.
2?
1.
So,
I mean,
1?
0.
Well, I don't think it's that bad. But
I think I feel like this was better not said. I mean, it's already on his Wikipedia page as the premier evidence that he's a racist.
Yeah, but regardless of what, well, are you saying that he shouldn't have said anything, or are you saying he just should have had a better apology?
No apology is better than this apology. I think Rogan really messed up here by having that bookcase in the background, because he could have done the Max Headroom floating head perfectly. Like if he just had a black drape behind him with this black shirt situation.
Right.
Joe Rogan on screen so we got the second apology video up, and Joe Rogan has a black long sleeve shirt on. And when he talks into the camera, I mean, it's like Kal-El from Superman. He's got that.
I mean, Jor-El.
Oh, Jor-El, yeah.
Yes.
He's got that floating head look,
Especially with the bald head. Yeah.
It's pretty bad. I mean, this is aesthetically, right. This is a terrible apology video, but
it's true. Well, I think maybe here's the thought process with the COVID one. He's like, I can be outside, I can be chill, but this one he's like, it's serious. It's the N word, I have to be serious.
Right.
I have to wear a nice shirt
on.
Yeah, sit in front of a bookcase. Right. Though, okay, here's my question for you in the chat. A pet peeve of mine that triggers me. I cannot stand it when people fucking film themselves vertically.
Landscape or portrait mode, rather.
In portrait mode. I hate it so much. Oh my God, it's so terrible. Just hold your phone correctly. Hold it horizontally like a camera.
It's TikTok, though. TikTok is in platform mode.
I fuck TikTok.
Portrait mode.
I hate TikTok. I hate children. Anyone
TikTok
under
Instagram, all those.
Anyone under 20, I hate you. But I hate your generation. I hate your media. I hate TikTok. I'm becoming an old man before the chat's eyes. Okay.
This is terrible.
You kids with your wrong way video cameras, hold your video cameras the right way and pull up your pants.
If he did it in landscape mode, though, you'd be able to see the Coke plate in the shot. Come on, Sitch.
Well, no. Well, here's my questions. I'm wondering if it's intentional to hold it vertical instead of horizontal, because it makes it seem more like intimate. Not produced, more authentic.
Maybe. I mean, I think this is, whoever told him to put on a black shirt, or if he did on his own, I just aesthetically.
Right.
It's so weird. But I wonder if, Joe Rogan has to believe that, like in the elephant and rider metaphor, that people are much more driven by unconscious intuitions. At least most people are. Yeah. Marketing people know this.
That's true. People were saying I should just turn my monitor on its side. I never thought I should do that. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'll just flip my monitor around.
It's like you're lying in bed with Joe Rogan.
Yeah. My dream.
Hello, friends. I'm making this video to talk about the most regretful and shameful thing that I've ever had to talk about publicly. There's a video that's out that's a compilation of me saying the N-word. It's a video that's
Here's a little advice. We've talked about this before. You're right. This video aesthetically is much worse. And another reason for this is because you never, ever, 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 ever want to film yourself with the camera below you. Okay. You never want to film yourself at this upward angle. It always makes people look weird or evil. Okay.
It looks
Don't
totally
do it.
evil.
Like Joe Rogan looks like Dr. Evil in the show.
He does. Dr. Evil. I feel like he's in his lair.
He just needs a little kitty to pet.
He's in his secret lair.
Yes.
It's made of clips taken out of context of me of 12 years of conversations on my podcast, and it's all smushed together, and it looks fucking horrible, even to me. Now, I know that to most people, there's no context where a white person is ever allowed to say that word, never mind publicly on a podcast. And I agree with that now. I haven't said it in years, but for a long time, when I would bring that word up, like if it would come up in conversation, instead of saying the N word, I would just say the word. I thought as long as it was in context, people would understand what I was doing. Like that context was part of the clip we were talking about Red Fox, how Red Fox said that word on television in the 1970s and how times have changed so much since then. Or about how Richard Pryor used it as one of the titles of one of his albums. Or I was quoting a Lenny Bruce bit, or I was quoting a Paul Mooney bit, or I was talking about how Quentin Tarantino used it repeatedly in Pulp Fiction. Or I was talking about how a Netflix executive, ironically, used it because he was trying to compare it to another offensive word, and he said it out loud, and they fired him. Not calling anybody or just saying the word out loud.
This is such a testament to how much the culture has changed. Like how this is a tactic continually used. Back when he said that, I'm certain he thought no one's going to intentionally lie about me to get me fired. It's just a completely different atmosphere where there weren't these evil people in the world that just immediately are willing to lie in positions of power and get away with it.
Well, there were evil people that were willing to lie. Just this tactic wasn't fully developed back then. It wasn't so broadly used. And it's funny, that's why they showed, there's a compilation of the Young Turks saying the N-word.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, so far, I think this is now, again, we're a couple of assholes who are nowhere near the legendary status or success of Joe Rogan. So maybe it's foolish or stupid for us to criticize a optics decision Joe Rogan has made, because I would assume he knows a lot more about this than either of us now.
Are you talking about the shirt deal or?
Well, no, I'm not talking about that.
Okay.
We're right about that. But I think that he should have structured this the way he structured the first video, where before he, apologizes and does all that stuff, because I think that's what's rubbing people the wrong way, is that he starts with the apology. I think he should have started with, I didn't call anyone the N-word.
Right.
And he should just say that. I never called someone the N-word. I was always referencing, someone else saying it in some context. And I was just saying the word instead of saying the N-word which honestly, I think the reason he was doing it was just because he thought like, I'm a young, edgy guy. It's lame to say the N-word. I'm going to show that I'm not afraid, and I'm going to say I'm just going to say it. Which I think is true. I think that's fine if you want to go that route. And for him, then he could say
culturally acceptable then, though. I mean, it wasn't a big deal. Are you
kidding? It wasn't. Well, let's be real. It wasn't culturally acceptable, but it wasn't the nuclear toxic waste it is now.
I mean,
it was so uncouth. Joe Rogan's not going to be going to the Met Gala saying the N-word.
If he was telling a story at the Met Gala about something that it was used in journalistic type context, somebody said this word, I don't see why he wouldn't. I mean, That's the whole idea behind it just being culturally acceptable then.
No, I don't agree with that. But anyway, that's a minor point. But
It's never been culturally acceptable. I mean, because you're much younger than me, so obviously you have a different context.
well, let's think about in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
What year did that movie come out?
1994. Yeah.
1994. Okay.
Yeah.
The entire joke of the scene is that it's so unacceptable for this white guy, let alone the director of the movie, to say the N-word again and again and again and again and again, over and over and over in the scene. So that's what I'm saying. It was never like acceptable to throw out N-bombs, but it didn't have, but still, it wasn't as bad as it is now.
Okay.
And Joe could have said, you know, after he gave the context, say, you know, but my thoughts have since changed. Those clips were from, you know, a decade ago or however long ago they were, and I've changed my opinion on using the N-word, you know, in public. I think that would have been a little bit better way to phrase it, but that's just my humble opinion.
I don't think he would have been saying it if it wasn't culturally acceptable. Obviously, if we were where we are now, then he wouldn't have been saying it.
Well, yeah, obviously, but
I mean, Pulp Fiction is part of that. Pulp Fiction is a giant part of that.
Right, but you understand that there's like it's not a binary. There's a difference between, it's not like culturally acceptable and unacceptable. There's a spectrum of acceptability, right?
Yeah, obviously, and different groups have different like tolerances for acceptability.
Sure. So
obviously.
So what I'm saying is that in the early 2000s and then even in the 2010s, whenever these clips were from, you could get away with saying the N-word in certain contexts, which Joe Rogan was saying them in, but you can't get away with now.
Did they? I wonder if they deleted the Burris episode where Burris is saying it right and left.
Probably.
Remember the Sam Harris? Who's the comedian? Is it Anthony?
That Sam Harris had the argument with?
Yes. Bill Burris, maybe. I don't.
Wasn't that not on Joe Rogan's podcast? Wasn't that on Hannibal Buress's podcast?
I think it was on Joe Rogan's podcast, but
okay.
But he was saying the N-word again and again and again.
Yeah, but he's black, so it doesn't matter.
But anyway, we can disagree and still be friends. I have a vivid memory after Pulp Fiction came out about a lot of people not having any more hang-ups about saying the N-word. So
yeah, but that's because you hang out with a bunch of racists.
I've told this story before. I was literally in a donut shop in San Francisco, and an Asian guy walked in and said, "What's up, my?" And the whole donut shop erupted in laughter, and it was very United Colors of Benetton.
How many black people were in that donut shop?
It's San Francisco, okay? There was every single race you could imagine in that donut shop. Yes, it was like a cultural moment. So,
okay. Well, listen, being a mere child in the 90s, I didn't experience this. So,
an Asian accent and the N-word, I mean, it's pretty hilarious. It's hard not to laugh. Okay,
that's true. That is pretty funny.
I don't remember people getting so bent out of shape about this. So obviously, if you're calling, it's a completely different thing to target somebody and call them the N-word. That's horrific. I heard that in New Orleans often because there's a bunch of racists there who would use it as a pejorative. So yes, that's a much different context than Joe Rogan mentioning it in a news story. And Young Turks, same thing, them mentioning it in a news story. The thing about the Young Turks clip, which is just as heinous, right? This is a Salem witch trial type situation here. Like Joe Rogan uttering it as, he's a real witch. This can do some damage here. The Young Turks uttering the spell, they're not witches. We all know, they're progressives. They're not racist. They're just using the incantation to illustrate what the witches do. Yeah, they're never going to get in trouble for it. Should we continue?
It's funny that you use that because this whole thing kind of reminds me of, remember Christine O'Donnell's, "I'm not a witch. I'm a person just like you."
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I kind of get those vibes from the Joe Rogan video.
Joe Rogan dressed literally like a witch in this video. What happened, Joe? A lot of people were bent out of shape about this video, and I can understand why, because
Yeah.
a lot of people backed up Joe Rogan, and then he's coming out, and this is borderline admission of guilt right here.
Well, I wouldn't take it that far. Let's finish it. Let's continue.
He's also talking about how there's not another word like it in the entire English language, because it's a word where only one group of people is allowed to use it, and they can use it in so many different ways. Like if a white person says that word, it's racist and toxic, but a black person can use it and it could be a punchline. It could be a term of endearment. It could be lyrics to a rap song. It could be a positive affirmation. It's a very unusual word, but it's not my word to use. I'm well aware of that now, but for years I used it in that manner. I never used it to be racist because I'm not racist, but whenever you're in a situation where you have to say, I'm not racist, you fucked up. And I clearly have fucked up. And that's my intention to express myself in this video, to say, there's nothing I can do to take that back. I wish I could. Obviously, that's not possible. I do hope that, if anything, that this can be a teachable moment. Because I never thought it would ever be taken out of context and put in a video like that. And now that it is, holy shit, it looks bad. And it's part of also me doing this podcast for thousands of hours, thousands of episodes, over 12 years. I've said a lot of fucking stupid shit, which is fine when you're talking about most things, but not when you're talking about race. And there's another clip that I have to address. There's a clip from 11 years ago. I was telling a story on the podcast about how me and my friend Tommy and his girlfriend, we got really high. We were in Philadelphia and we went to go see Planet of the Apes. And we didn't know where we were going. We just got dropped off by a cab and we got dropped off in this all black neighborhood. And I was trying to make the story entertaining. And I said, we got out and it was like we were in Africa. It's like we were in Planet of the Apes.
Why would you repeat that? I guess so people don't seek out the clip, but the clip is everywhere. People are shoving the clip in my face.
Oh my God.
Is this bad?
It's hilarious, but it's pretty bad. But it's also hilarious.
I did not, nor would I ever say that black people are apes, but it sure fucking sounded like that. And I immediately afterwards said, that's a racist thing to say. Planet of the Apes wasn't even in Africa. I was just saying there's a lot of black people there. But then I went on to talk about what a positive experience it was and how much fun it was to go to see this movie in a black neighborhood. It wasn't a racist story, but it sounded terrible. And like I said, you can have clunky stories about anything, but not about race. And so I deleted that whole podcast, but obviously somebody made a clip out of it and taken out of context. It looks terrible, but it looks terrible even in context. It's a fucking idiotic thing to say. And I was just trying to be entertaining. I certainly wasn't trying to be racist. And I certainly would never want to offend someone for entertainment with something as stupid as racism. My hope is that, look, I can't go.
I mean, we've watched comedians on our show that are trying to entertain people with racism.
Racism can be funny, and that's part of the problem, is that no one wants to admit that publicly.
Well, I was thinking of the comedian who was doing the anti-white racism, which wasn't funny, and he was racist as fuck.
But it wasn't. He wasn't even making jokes, though.
I know.
He was, and that's the difference. I mean, and that's part of the problem with comedy. Comedy, especially for stand-up comedians, there's always this line of like, you have to push it up to the line of acceptability without going directly over it.
Yeah. Comedy's very simple. Comedy is about surprise, and the easiest way to surprise people is to break taboos right in front of them. So a lot of comedy does that.
It was the same thing. Like, one of my favorite comedians is Tosh. And he got into trouble because he made the joke about how
the rape joke.
Yeah, he replaced his sister's mace with silly string.
Yeah.
And that because of that she got raped.
The punchline is, she got raped.
But then the punchline is that she's like, "You got me, you pranked me good." Like she's not even upset about it.
Right.
And it's funny because it's so horrible, but it's so obviously not real. Like it's so obviously not true. Like it's just a preposterous situation. And then there's the woman, some heckler in the audience says like, rape isn't funny. And his response is, he says, wouldn't it be funny if you got raped right now? and that's the thing. It's like, it's annoying because like everyone knows in that setting what the intention is.
Right.
Right. They know that Tosh didn't actually do this. They know Tosh doesn't actually want his family member to be raped. They know Tosh doesn't actually want this audience member to be raped, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I don't know. She was heckling him.
Well, that's true. But like it wasn't a Kramer situation, right?
Right. Yes.
But and I think I can understand why a lot of people didn't like this apology. I don't like this apology. Because unlike the first one, this does feel like a complete capitulation, roll over on your back and here's my belly move. And again, my humble opinion, what do I know? But I feel what I would have, maybe I should phrase it like what I would have liked to have seen from Joe was for him to say, he could still say, I don't say the N-word anymore, and I don't think I should, and I'm fine with that, and I, yada, yada, yada. But I would have liked for him to kind of, and maybe this was the wrong move, but I would have liked for him to talk about how we live in a climate now where everyone is so terrified that there's a racist white nationalist Nazi under every rock, behind every tree, under every corner, and then worse, not only are we surrounded by racists, but that they're all hiding. They're all hiding their power levels. And so the only way to determine who is a racist is to like figure out like, oh, this person said the N-word 10 years ago, or, oh, this person said something a little sus, let me like mind read into it that it's really a secret racist. And to say that this is not the culture, the climate anyone wants to live in. I'm Joe Rogan. I've opened for Dave Chappelle. I've been friends with 1 million fucking black people my entire life. Everyone that knows me, who's been on my show and talked to me, knows that I'm not racist. And it's preposterous that we live in this society now where, people are going to go trolling back through comments you made 5 or 10 years ago, where you say things, where a comedian says things in the context of jokes, or where someone references someone saying something else and say, oh, we got you. We got you. You really are the secret racist. Because we all know what's going on here. What's really going on here is not someone saying, not people sincerely thinking that Joe Rogan is racist. It's what it is people saying, I don't like Joe Rogan. I don't like his opinions. And now I can hit him with this hammer to try to get him canceled. We all know that's what's happening. And I feel like that has to be addressed in this apology, in this conversation.
I do think people legitimately think Joe Rogan is racist, though.
Based the crazy on people.
The people who don't know him, the low information Joe Rogan people just buy into. They took this opportunity to create a narrative around Joe Rogan for new people that they will believe. They see Joe Rogan as Richard Spencer. They see Joe Rogan as David Duke. Those people, this works. That's why they do it. This is very effective. I mean, we've experienced that with Jordan Peterson, very much so. They did it with Trump in the praise neo-Nazis on CNN every 5 minutes of every day. Someone would say Trump praised neo-Nazis. That sinks in.
Right. Yeah. The low information people can be tricked. But what I mean is like the people peddling this.
Right.
They know.
They know it's a lie. Yes.
That it's a lie.
They know it's a lie. They know it's a lie that is effective. Yeah.
They know it's a lie. They know Joe Rogan isn't racist. And they know they're just trying to get him canceled.
Yes, because he poses a gigantic financial threat to them. Spotify is a giant music platform, and they want to move into the news and information space where CNN is a platform for information.
Right.
Yeah, a direct competitor. All these people are direct competitors. So Spotify is eating their lunch. I don't know if you read any of the articles on the situation with Spotify being, Spotify began as a music platform that people would use kind of like the radio, right?
Right.
But they're using content that everybody has access to. Like anybody can make that platform and do it better. And then their MySpace and the new Facebook is 10 times better than them. So they developed this strategy because they needed some original content. And I got to admit, the last thing I wanted to do was download Spotify, but there's some Joe Rogan podcasts that I want to listen to. So now they're tracking me everywhere I go.
Yep. True. Very
So
true.
collecting data on all of us. And they call it legacy media for a reason. You CNN, fucking MSNBC. I got rid of cable because I don't want to pay CNN to make lies about other people. Like, fuck that. So the next version of news is going to happen, and it might be Spotify. So there's a direct financial incentive for the mainstream media. You made a video about this a bazillion years ago because YouTube is a direct competitor with the mainstream media as well. So a lot of the adpocalypse was same thing. Remember, PewDiePie used a dirty, naughty word, and all of us got giant ad revenue slices because of it. Same exact thing.
Right.
Lies work.
Yeah, and it's disgusting because it totally worked. I mean, if you guys remember, pre the adpocalypse,
The
you would
YouTube
go
apocalypse.
Yeah, pre the YouTube adpocalypse, which was, I don't even remember. Was it 2017?
Years ago.
I don't know. It seems like an ancient history.
Yes.
But before that period, if you went on YouTube and you looked up CNN or MSNBC or even Fox News' YouTube channel, they got pitiful views.
Yeah, terrible.
Pitiful views.
Right.
And if you typed in some news story that was current, most of the time, the thing at the top of the search results would be some random YouTuber with like a way more views talking about whatever the news story was. And yet, because of the apocalypse, basically the media bullied YouTube into giving them priority over all news stories. And it worked. It completely worked. And it's still going on in this day, and it's disgusting.
And this is the continuation of it right here.
Yep.
This is us seeing it. That's why it's so... I mean, I'm conflicted about the artists who are saying, I don't want to be on the same platform as Joe Rogan because
fuck them. Fuck
they're
those people.
Well, they're being used. They're totally being used. They're being used by the mainstream media.
And this is just me, okay? I try to be pretty anal about like looking into stuff. And I understand that, but that's the problem. These people aren't, and it's not like they're busy.
No,
I mean, I don't know. There's Jody Mitchell and whatever his name is, these 7-year-old former musicians. Are they really that busy that they can't say, well, before I make a decision to demand a platform remove all my stuff, I should go actually listen to the content in question and form some opinion on it? No, they don't do any of that stuff.
No, they don't.
No, that's what I'm saying. Fuck them.
Yeah.
They're contributing to this nonsense, and people being too stupid to understand how they're contributing to it doesn't mean that they have any sort of moral responsibility lifted away from them. They still are just as morally responsible.
It's systemic lying. They're contributing to the systemic lying.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're contributing to systemic dishonesty.
Which is worse, systemic lying or systemic racism? I feel like systemic lying is way more prevalent.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's worse, but I definitely know we have a huge fucking systemic lying problem.
We do.
People see this, some fucking clip out of some compilation clip out of context of Joe Rogan saying the N-word for 12 years. They think this guy's a Nazi. That's all they need.
You'll notice going back to what you said earlier, when we watch, these people complain about Joe Rogan, they almost always say the same thing. They say, well, Joe doesn't have to talk about controversial issues. He doesn't have to talk about the news. He can talk about MMA and, MM and DMT. And it's like them signaling like, Joe, stay out of our territory. Don't talk about the news. You're not allowed.
Exactly. Also, they get bent out of shape because he doesn't play along with their deplatforming goals either.
Yeah.
He platforms people that they are untouchable. You know, you're talking to the people we've deemed untouchable, and we don't like that. So that really raises their hackles as well, which is completely offensive to me. But
let's finish this off.
Go back in time and change what I've said. I wish I could. Obviously, that's not possible. But I do hope that this can be a teachable moment for anybody that doesn't realize how.
Don't you want to see the time travel movie where Joe Rogan actually goes back and convinces himself not to say that N word the first time, right? And he comes back and he's a fucking bum living under the fucking bridge.
There you go. There you go.
It all began with that first edgy joke and didn't pan out the way you thought it would, Joe, did it?
How offensive that word can be coming out of a white person's mouth, in context or out of context. My sincere and humble apologies. I wish there was more that I could say, but all of this is just me talking from the bottom of my heart. It makes me sick watching that video, but hopefully at least some of you will accept this and understand where I'm coming from. My apologies and much love. My sincere, deepest apologies and much love.
So, first apology, 10 out of 10. Second apology,
2 out of 10.
4 out of 10. I don't know.
Oh, 4. Nice.
What are you giving it? It's pretty bad.
2. Yeah.
2?
1.
So,
I mean,
1.
0.
Well, I don't think it's that bad. But
I think I feel like this was better not said. I mean, it's already on his Wikipedia page as the premier evidence that he's a racist.
Yeah, but regardless of what, well, are you saying that he shouldn't have said anything, or are you saying he just should have had a better apology?
No apology is better than this apology. That's why I'm conflicted on giving it any score above a 0.
Well, better in what way? You think better in terms of how the public would, like the overall public would react? Because I don't agree with that.
It's just in the current political environment, racism is considered equivalent to coming out and telling everyone you're a serial killer. Now, you don't just come out and say, listen, I'm a serial killer, and I feel really bad that I killed a bunch of people, back in the 80s, but I apologize, okay? That's not how it works.
You're right. OJ never apologized.
That's just not how it works, okay? You lawyer up and you fight it in the courtroom, but you don't come out and say, like, an apology is just not going to fly. And we're way past I did a racism back in the 80s and I apologize. Like, you have to look at it the way your adversaries are looking at it, the way that they've gaslit the general public into perceiving it. And they have. They perceive these kind of racial indiscretions. It's as tantamount to killing somebody. It's interesting because I've watched a lot of the responses and whatnot, and you have people, it's like they don't even really understand that it was a different cultural environment 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whenever these things came out. Like, they have no consciousness of the political atmosphere changes over time. We've seen it change massively just in the amount of time that we've been on YouTube. So they act like, oh, Joe Rogan should have known better 8 years ago. No, fuck you. It was a different time 8 years ago, okay? Different norms were acceptable 8 years ago it completely upsets me that people are so stupid that they're willing to judge people by the ethical standards of today for things that they did almost a decade ago. That bugs the shit out of me.
Right. Well, I guess we'll see, because this happened. Was this Saturday or Friday that this came out?
I'm not sure.
Well, okay, it's either
I think
Saturday
it was
or
Saturday. Yeah, yesterday.
right. Okay, it's either yesterday or late Friday that the N-word video and the
Yeah.
apology came out. I'll hold back until I'm curious because since this happened on Saturday or late Friday, it's actually from a calculating perspective, this was really stupid. They should have definitely put this out on a Monday. They wanted to really hammer Joe because then you'd have the whole week of like, all the news stations can immediately cover it because now you have this break where they can't, most of the news stations, they're not even on until the weekday. So I'm curious to see what their reaction to this will be and whether, because if they look at the apology and they basically say this is bullshit or this is not enough, then I think Joe can definitely salvage this going forward. Because if there's ever any, because this won't be the last attack, there'll be some other attack after this. And if the media doesn't accept this and the mainstream media attacks him for this and his apology, he can just say, listen, I'm never going to apologize for anything ever again because you guys don't give people, there's no road to redemption here. I said the N word multiple times. I apologize and everyone just attacked me further, which shows that you guys are not interested in redemption. So I will never apologize for anything I ever do again publicly. This is on your head.
One of my favorite books is the book So You've Been Publicly Shamed by John Ronson.
Right.
And in that book, he goes through maybe a dozen cases of people who've gone through this process. Like, he should come out with a second book because, there's way more content since he wrote that book. That book is maybe 4 or 5 years old. But in that book, every single person that apologizes is utterly destroyed. It's just totally annihilated.
Of course.
Their lives are turned upside down, and some of them are, there's one that's a world-renowned science author who's destroyed. Justine Sacco's the first one, who's just some random Twitter user. Her life is totally destroyed, right? The people that apologize get eviscerated. And the people that say, fuck you, I didn't do anything wrong, nothing happens. They live to fight another day. Their careers go on unchanged. Which just that, to me, it's anecdotal, but it says to me, like, the more authentic the apology, I feel like the more you're damaging yourself, because what makes apologies authentic is remorse. And remorse is because you did something wrong. No, Joe Rogan, you did nothing wrong. That's the way that I would have come out. I would say, listen, it was a different time back then, okay? You think I'm going to go around saying the N-word in an atmosphere where people are going to hate my guts for it? No, of course not. I'm not a fucking moron, okay? Back then, people were more chill, okay? We had better weed standards, okay? People weren't all up in arms about it. And I would never say I have black friends thing, okay? Because that's toxic, right? You can't say that. But I would say I've had dozens of black people on the podcast. Like, they come on all the time. You're welcome to come on, right? I have an open atmosphere where, we want the pulse of the culture. We want to know what's going on, okay? I wouldn't admit guilt. Why would you do that?
Yeah. Well, and maybe that's, with the first apology, the only thing that he's apologizing for is saying, I think after I have people that are controversial on, I should have an opposing view closer to it. He's not apologizing for having the person on. He's not saying, I wish I didn't. With this one, he's saying, I wish I didn't do the incident.
Well,
and so maybe that's also why it's rubbing people the wrong way.
Totally. And also the first one, he's apologizing for a parking ticket. I'm telling you, people see racism as you're a serial killer. You are David Duke.
I'm not sure I agree with that because I feel, and this could be wrong, but so maybe again, because this has happened on the weekend, it seems like more people were pissed about the COVID stuff than saying the N-word.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so I'm not sure I agree.
Obviously, this is my personal perspective.
Right.
Californian people are really sensitive about race in lefty California.
Right. Well, I guess we'll
We will see. Yeah, we'll definitely see. Hi, you just listened to a clip from the Sitch and Adams show. If you like what you heard, you can listen to our live show right here on this channel on Sunday, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And if you want, you can super chat us. We read $20 and up super chats on the show and then do a follow-up stream on the following Tuesday where we read the rest of the unread super chats and interact with fans of the show. Subscribe to this channel right here to listen to the live show or to listen to more of our awesome clips.